Ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of The Grit Theory. We are so glad you found us today.
This is John Mayo with Aaron Robinson, and we are thrilled that you are joining us as we explore how challenge and adversity can be changed into opportunity.
And don't forget, if you like what you hear today, please subscribe, share with your friends, and we love your comments.
So without further ado, let's jump right into another episode of The Grit Theory.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of The Grit Theory. I'm Aaron Robinson. I'm here with John Mayo.
Hello.
And our guest today, Chet Bailey. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Chet Bailey and I have been friends for, I can't remember how many years. It's got to be 5+ years. And Chet has a story of grit that I have been impressed with ever since I've met him, because I knew him before, kind of when he was on the journey and as he went through even more difficult parts of the journey. So we've asked him to come in today and get gritty about something that may, I think there may be some opinions on this one today, as far as what somebody would do when they hear your story, what personal decisions they would make. But before we get into all that, Chet, we will have a great about podcast today, just talking about that story, getting the grit as we do, mining those nuggets as we do, and then eventually we'll land that plane, and hopefully we'll just have this incredible moment of clarity about it all life, and we'll go on and soldier on. That's the goal. I hope. John's looking at me suspiciously.
No.
You good?
Yeah, I think I'm good, It's the 3 bones. Right now we're getting warmed up.
Yeah.
Then Aaron will probably hand it to you in some pretty package.
Yeah, and John, we're here in this studio under interesting circumstances. What's wrong with us today?
So it is pretty fun. It's a Wednesday morning when we're recording this, and it's dark out. Well, now it's starting to be light, and snow's blowing, and both you gentlemen still made it. Mm-hmm. So thank you. First testimony to grit today, so that's fun.
Yeah, I have to give Aaron a hard time about the directions he gave me. He said it's the house with all the trees around it, but it's completely dark, so you can't see all the trees.
It was completely dark. Sorry about that.
And the snow's blowing too, so it's
I always love coming to the ranch. We like to call it out here. It's just come to this location. There'll be a gate. A man will walk out in the dark of night and open said gate. You'll drive in, and there will be an experience on the other side of it.
After the gate closes.
We're so glad you could be here today, Chet. How are you doing? Are you awake with us? I know we asked you to come in early today.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. It's interesting to see this time from this side.
Yes.
Usually I'm from the other side. Usually, when I've seen it, I'm going to bed and not getting out of bed.
That's right. Yeah, most people do their best work at 6 p.m., not 6 a.m.
That's fair.
Yeah. So how's John doing today?
Doing well.
Yeah. We just got out of the gym ourselves. Just
a quick smoker. Yeah, a quick smoker real fast, and try to get some sweat before the snow. That way we can make sure we're awake for you, and now we're here. And I know I'm feeling pretty good. From what I understand of the story you're sharing today, I think that regardless of if people would make the same decisions you did, it's an encouragement and testimony. It's a testament to staying the course, right? And not blowing with the wind left and right, and being fickle and things like that. So I'm really excited to jump in, frankly, and get to hear more about this and learn about it. So yeah, thanks for coming, and I'm excited to jump in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Chet, like any friend, I'm probably going to get some of the facts wrong. Trying to tell your story. That's why you're here, to fact check me with your story. Before I toss it to you, just a little backdrop, and again, fact check me here. But when I met Chet, however many years ago, married to a wonderful woman named Debi, and Chet has always had a softness and a kindness about him, which intrigues me. Like when somebody seems to be authentic, and whether authentic being a crazy person or authentic being just a humble or like a softer person, I've just always said, Chet, you're the kind of person I don't feel intimidated around you. You have a sense you could tell you genuinely want to be in front of the person you're in front of. But when I look into your eyes and talk to you, it seems like that's been trained. Like you've been kind of living that for a long time. It's really who you are. It's not something you're just acting like. And then you start telling me your story. And so what the listeners may or may not know with what they know you is that Debi had a disability, which caused her really to heavily depend on you. You'd been married at this time for many years. So you go ahead. Yeah.
So Debi had a rare disease called a mitochondrial myopathy that caused severe muscle weakness, progressive muscle weakness, as well as problems neurologically. It was severe headaches and strokes and things like that. So we went through. She was ill for over 20 years, and so we walked through that journey for a lot longer than the doctors expected us to.
When we met, how many years had you been married?
So
at that time?
We've probably been married probably about 17 years about that time.
So when you married Debi, she did not have this.
She did not have this. She'd actually, when we first started dating, she told me that she'd had leukemia when she was a child, and so to expect there to be some issues, and in fact, they had told her at that time not to expect to survive to be 30, just because of all that she had gone through. So
you knew this before you married her.
Correct.
Wow.
So we had a discussion. She's like, I don't know what's going to happen. There's a very good chance that I'll have either leukemia will come back or brain tumors and things like that. And just to understand, she had leukemia back in the late 70s when they were just starting to be able to do some amount of treatment for it. So, it's nothing like if you have it today. But then
not as much support back then,
right?
For that, okay. Right. And why? Just before you continue, why did you decide to? I mean, that's a big deal. Like you're getting, it's sort of to be crass. There's no damaged goods, right? Like that's not a deal situation to go into in a marriage, but you decided to do so anyway. Right. Why is that?
Well, as we had that discussion, I said, well, heart disease runs in my family. I've got high blood pressure already when I was in high school, and I already had high blood pressure. And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen to me either. So we'll have whatever amount of time God gives us, and we'll just do with it, however. Whatever we have.
Let's adventure together.
Right.
Let's adventure.
You put yourself in the same kind of situation. It's like, hey, I don't know when I'm going to die. Right. So that's great. It's good, simply put. Yeah.
We none of us know what we're going to have. So
fair.
Yeah. So we take it one day at a time.
The statistics on death are pretty astronomical. 100%.
I'm pretty sure that everybody has something.
We will all die. So here you are. You get married. You know that there's history. You're like, hey, love you, want to be with you. Let's adventure together, right? And so you guys continue being married, and then obviously I think this stuff develops a while after being married. So it's the hypothetical going in.
Right.
There's hypothetical concerns that could realize themselves, and then life happened. They did realize themselves, which is where I think you were, in some context, continuing your story. Is that fair?
Correct.
Cool.
And then after we were married about a year. We dated a couple of years, and then we got married, and we were married about a year. And when she went into the hospital for the first time, and really, after that, she just, was not able to. She had to drop out of school. She was working on her master's degree, she couldn't do that anymore, and things just really started going downhill at that point. And
where was your head in all that? I mean, because talking to you, you guys had an active lifestyle. You could.
Right. Prior to that, we would go and play golf very regularly. She loved golf, tennis. Neither of us were extremely athletic, but we still got out and we hiked and, like I said, golf and tennis and things like that. And it was a slow progression, but we slowly lost those things. She within a year or so, she could no longer play golf anymore. We were able to do hikes for a little while, but it's just slowly losing different things with being able to drive, eventually having to be in a wheelchair, all those things, it's a tough. It's really tough watching someone you love going through that.
Mm-hmm.
And but the other thing that I always remembered is, as tough as it was for me, she was actually living it. She was the one that was actually losing those things.
Right.
So, so if she had the strength to be able to do that, there's no reason I couldn't.
Wow. So you didn't think of it. Your mindset wasn't that something's being taken from me. Your mindset was, this is being taken from her.
Right.
And you had compassion in that situation.
Right.
So a little different than I think the normal knee-jerk reaction of a guy. Yeah.
I don't agree with that, Aaron. I think that is just different from the reaction of a person, first of all.
Right.
But what I love about it is, so this started, the discovery and the degradation of capability started a year into being married. Is that right? Okay.
Right.
So it's not like you've been married 15 years. There's this huge, broad foundation. You guys made the commitment a year in. Your lifestyle is dramatically changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes to, we're starting to get into your mindset on what's going on, because the story is hard and tragic enough, but like your experience with it, we just got the first glimpse, I think. And that's where you said, yeah, one of the things I had to remind myself of, I imagine in a time of frustration, maybe, or when you were discouraged, is if this is hard for me to have our life shift and to watch my wife go through this, she's the one living it.
Right.
So what do I have to complain about? I can serve and support and love.
Right.
When did that come naturally to you, or did you have to develop that over the years of caring for and walking through this with her?
It definitely was a progression in my attitude as well. Really, the first year of our marriage, I really studied on what is love, and really meditated on that, and that kind of even started a basis of, if I hadn't done that, I don't know that I would have been able to have walked that path, but it was still, a very difficult journey, even 10, 15 years down the road, and still continuously going back to, what is love and how do I walk that out, and, is what we're going through right now at this point. And if we'd have gone through, if what we went through 15 years later is what we went through on day one, I probably would not have made it.
I had and this is why, I was talking about this sort of reactionary kind of standpoint, because John, the extreme example of this, that I think everyone would agree this is crazy, but the story was told to me because my wife and I did premarital counseling, and we were coached. He said, "What about this?" He says, "Why did you guys get married?" And we listed all these things, and it was amazing how selfish our list was. Mm-hmm. Everything was all these things the person does for me. She makes me happy. I think she's pretty. I think, I like being around her, those kind of things. It's pretty me-centric, right?
Right.
And he tells the stories. Okay, here's a story. It says this couple they date when they in their dating they were very active. They were in fact they were like world class skiers, and they skied all the time as much as they could until and then they got married under this pretense, and then eventually there was a day when she got hurt and she got paralyzed from the hips down, uh, ending her skiing career. The very next move for the husband was he packed up all her ski gear and all her stuff and drove her to her dad's house and dropped her off and said, I no longer have any use for her. And that was it. And I heard this and was like, that's horrible. And but then he challenged me and said, okay, what if something is taken from your relationship that you really think is a primary inside the relationship? Would you do the same thing? It really challenged love.
Right.
Like, what is love? And maybe you could speak to that. What is love?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think anyone preparing to marry really needs to go through those tough discussions of what really is important to me and how, and why am I really, committing to this lifelong relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And, but yeah, love, it's desiring the best for someone else, and that's where I come from. The belief of love is just trying to do what I can do to help someone else out.
Right.
And that's what we both went into marriage with, that same attitude of this is we're supporting each other, and there's with all her disabilities, she still did support me in a lot of ways too. So it was not just a one way. I'm giving everything, not getting anything.
Right.
But it's a again, it's a commitment. It's not about. It shouldn't be about what am I going to get out of this. It is what can I give. To my spouse. So it's very important to have those types of discussions and really think about that. And then also with that story of it used to really piss me off when I hear something like that of someone walking away. And I met quite a few people, often women, but sometimes there's men too that got sick and their spouse left them, and often with some kids too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very tough to see that. But I also saw the flip side of that. We had in one of our caregiving groups, I had a young girl. She was 16. She's supposed to be living preparing for college and doing all the high school stuff of prom and all that and dating and all that. But she was caring for her mom and her dad, and it was that her mom had a very severe form of multiple sclerosis, and she and her dad actually was an alcoholic, and it was that he had, she said that she wished that when her mom first started getting sick that he would not have stuck around because he just made it worse. But it was and so that kind of showed me that there are times when someone does have to also be honest with themselves of, can I do this? And it's important to, if you to be honest with yourself and say, I cannot do this alone.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And seek out help. And likewise, if someone is going through something, see what you can do to help them out. But it is important to be honest with what is my, what can I actually handle? And sometimes it is a tough decision to say, I'm not going to be able to handle this. And and it's going to be best for me to walk away.
Chet, do you mind if, real quick, there's 3 bombshells in the last few minutes for like huge mountains that I just want to highlight at least because there's a lot. So first, your definition of love, I think, is a mature definition of love. It's not what we see in pop culture, and social media. Like that's not it.
I don't think I've seen that movie.
Well, there's on the joke, yes, absolutely right. Love defined as wanting and working towards the best for the person you love, right? It reminded me when I was listening to you say it of like, if you want a relationship to work, it doesn't take 50% effort on each side, right? It takes 110% effort from each person to make that relationship work. Why? Because it takes that desire for the best of the person that you love and then for the relationship that you're building to do. So that was really cool and just wanted to pin that. And then the second thing was when you shared your frustration when you'd see people non-committally leave a circumstance because it gets hard or because of something, definitely seems like you especially have a right to that anger. And I think it's okay to call out and challenge people on leaving their commitments. Absolutely. But what I really appreciate is not just the courage to say, yeah, it's wrong to leave your commitments, right? But hey, it's not just black and white, right? Like you kind of brought it to this full circle of default value. It's probably baseline wrong and disgusting that you left these people out to dry, period. But then I saw this, like the flash of energy kind of leave your eyes, and then you kind of were like sitting there for a second, and as you kept speaking, you walked into, but you need to be honest with yourself because this is bloody hard, and it will inspire passion, but you can make it worse if you stay in the situation but start becoming more selfish in the situation, or if you don't realize what you can or can't handle. So 1, equip yourself with people to strengthen you, and 2, be honest with yourself. Because looking at the young woman who was caring for her mother and the father was drunk, he stuck around, but he did he? His body was there. But did he actually commit? Or did he start pursuing a selfish escape into the bottle?
Great point.
And that's where I just love and really wanted to put that in the spotlight of what you're talking about here is what sounds like painfully earned temperance and self-assessment of what can you do, what can't you do, and how's it going to play out.
Right.
Difficulty is absolutely going to happen, right? That's like to try to have a disdain for difficulty is a lesson in madness. It's going to happen. But the difference is how we respond to difficulty. It's like, this is your difficult story. And I also want to note too that I love that we're talking about like a relational thing, because when we talk about grit, it's so often this sort of like over masculinated, like it's all about like a strength thing. You're just soldiering on, you're getting through. Sometimes it's just like emotional struggle, like this is really hard, or even a selfish internal struggle that I'm dealing with, or even from the love standpoint, I don't feel like I'm enough to even handle this situation or carry it like I want to, but I don't even know how to do it. And you're trying to find a way to do it.
And And I don't want to sound like I did not go through those struggles either, because there are times where I was at the end of my rope and I'm like, God, I just cannot do this, and I just want to start over. I want to walk away and start over, and there are and what I eventually found out, and that is I need to stop trying to do it all on my own and realize that there is support out there to help and to allow people to help. Sometimes I would get into trying to do it all on my own, and someone would say, well, just let me know if you ever need anything, which I really, a lot of times that does come off as very, let me know if if you ever need anything. But but don't but don't want something too much.
So so the well-meaning friends, and we all have that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just call me when you need me. It's like I rarely call my friends when I have a bullet wound.
Right.
I need you to be around when that bullet wounds.
But from that side, it's a lot better to when you see something, say, this is what I can do to help you out with, instead of just saying, just leave it wide open.
Mm-hmm.
We all mean, we really do usually mean, honestly, call me when you need something. But when you're in the middle of it, you're just pushing through and you don't even stop to think, oh, yeah, someone, Aaron could help me out with this.
Right.
But, if Aaron is,
checking in,
he can say, okay, you've got a pile of dishes there. Why don't I come over and help you clean those,
But I'm not a psychologist, Chad. I can't help you right now. It's like, you can do dishes, dude.
Right, yep.
You can come and be around.
It's so interesting because typically it's just presence and like removing some stressor, right? Yeah. So it's like the dishes, we are laughing, but I imagine that was actually like a personal
He's remembering time we needed the dishes.
You're remembering times that the dishes were piling up.
Yeah. But it's also that, it's easy to see all the horrible, difficult things that someone's going through and forget about the fact that there are still, small things that can still help out. That may not seem like anything important, but it's still just helping somewhere,
right,
in some way. So yeah, you can't fix the fact that she's not able to walk. You can't fix that, but you can at least help out in what she's not able to do anymore.
Or take you out to lunch, or I think that's the simple. Like let's use do the dishes as the moniker, but hey, if you see somebody in your life that needs a little help and support, like just look for something. It could be totally menial,
right?
But in the moment, and we've all received it at some point in our life, I think, where it's like, boy, that person didn't know how much that meant to me.
Right, exactly.
Well, a really simple one is like if you have a child or something, where you immediately get sick at the beginning, people always offer, hey, you need meals? Like we can prep some meals and you can bring them and just bake them. When you're going through these long struggles, things like that, I imagine would still be extremely appreciated.
Right.
Yep. When the journey continues, right? Maybe the frequency is less sustainable, but that's always an easy thing. And I think everyone I've met needs to eat and appreciates food in some capacity. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Do you mind? I had a question because you're talking about it's not all bad, right? And obviously, we've been focusing on the hard things, right? And we've come to this point of like you will very likely fail atrociously if you're not honest with yourself and if you don't get help. And you're talking about how you've come to your wits' end many times. I was thinking maybe we could juxtapose that for a minute with when you're going through the shit, your life is continuously changing before your eyes, right? And your dreams or hopes maybe of how it was starting are adjusting with the new reality.
Right.
And you're learning all these hard lessons as you're being beat to a pulp and to the end of yourself and finding to get help. What sparked joy or was there anything that brought joy in your relationship with your wife? Were there positive things still going on, or was it all just like gritting your teeth and going?
Right. So, I mean, there was definitely, some, times of joy too. I mean, one of the amazing things about her story is, it was probably close to, 15 years into this struggle that she had been bedridden for about 6 months. We were getting really wiped out financially, and I had started to have to work from home full time to care for her while she was bedridden, and that was putting a lot of stress on the job. My immediate manager was very good about giving me the freedom to work from home, but most people in the company and most upper management did not agree with that. So it was a tough, and so she said, well, what can I do to help? And I said, well, one thing is I don't know how much longer this job is going to last. Especially if you keep getting sicker, which you're going to. There's going to be a point where I'm not going to be able to keep with that job, and so we really need to start thinking about what's our fallback plan. And and at that point, she had been, she was crafting. She did knit and crochet and would send baby blankets and booties and things to hospitals, and she was involved in some groups that were doing that. And she said, well, why don't we look at starting a business? And we were looking at how can we save money on the supplies and all that stuff. And we said, well, we can get this stuff wholesale, we can sell it, and it would also reduce our costs. And so he said, let's see, and so we actually started a business together, and she ran that from her bed for several years. And
wow, she's a tough lady. That's awesome.
But that gave her something also to look to besides her illness and the things that she couldn't do.
Yeah,
she found things that she could still do, and always, instead of focusing on the things that she was losing, focused on the things that she could do still and could find ways of doing.
What a great attitude.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I just and I remember sitting down with one of our suppliers and talking, and we met together with one of our suppliers, and they said they were amazed at how well we worked together in this business, and she said that she could really see the sparkle in my eye when talking about it. So so yeah, I mean, even though we had all this difficulty, we also had things that we could do together and support each other in.
That was there's just two things I want to mention in this. The primary was how your language right now when you're talking about this, when you're talking to her. What are we going to do about this together? It was a team thing,
right?
Like it wasn't just like you going, this is happening to me. I have to fix this.
Right.
Like sometimes we can all do. This is I'm going to fix this. I do this all the time. my wife will tell you, and it doesn't normally end well. I'm just like, I'm going to take all it. Fine, and which is a very prideful position. I understand that.
Right.
But you just sort of like, to me, I almost can see it now. You got down on your knee and looked her in the eye and just said, hey, sweetie, I don't know how long this is going to go. How can we figure out how to do this together? And she solved it with you.
Right.
Well, even better than that,
yeah,
she discerned your stress, if I heard you correctly.
Oh, yeah.
And she called it out. She's like, hey, what can we do to fix this? Because I can see it's probably tearing you up, and I want to help, right? And that, I think, is one of there's two or three really cool things in what you just shared. But one is relationships are never meant to be one directional. It goes back to the 110% both ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the whole concept. And if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Well, going together implies working together. It's a team. It's not just two individuals. So that's one. Two, you said, I just think it's freaking awesome. Everything's falling apart. Things are getting harder. Money's drying up. The illness is going to get worse. The job front's looking scarier by the day. Let's start a business.
Yes.
Right? That takes like one, audacity.
Yeah.
Two, commitment to each other, right? To be like, yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, but let's do it together. Okay. And it's the best we got, so let's run with
That's
it.
Right.
And three, it's awesome because you talked about what you're aiming at, right? What you're putting your focus on. And I think that's one of the central themes that we've come through all of the conversations, and we'll continue to see as we have discussions like this, is, yeah, things can get really bad. And if that's what you focus on, it will absolutely destroy you.
Right.
You have to lift your eyes upward, pick a target, and pursue it.
Yeah. Right.
And that is what this business became for you guys. It became this collective thing. How much of a relief was it to define something that you could pursue not only alone but together that wasn't related to a loss of functionality or something like that? Was that a huge relief?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's something that, to this day, I still remember, when, she was planning the, product that we carry. She was planning, we eventually did open a store. She was planning this, the store design and stuff like that. Just the, the gleam in her eye, as sick as she was and everything, having that to focus on and to look to, it was a huge relief to have something else to look at besides what all was going wrong, and having the hope of doing something, to improve our situation in whatever way we could. Having something to hope for and to look for.
Would you say? I'm just thinking. There's a lesson here that I want to capture for myself.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what you discovered when you came to that point was also, and even more so for you, because the thing you keep referencing is the gleam in her eye, the energy and joy it brought her, right? And how much of a relief it must have been for you to see her in that positive state instead of just downcast and downtrodden all the time, or in whatever capacity that was. I do think it's a natural reaction. We see someone hurt, and it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and what can I do to help, and all this stuff. And like, if it's something that's not short, right, like flash event, bad thing, and now you're recovering. If it's something that's ongoing, it almost seems like one of the best things you can do is walk alongside them, doing the dishes, things like that. But how can you walk with them to the discovery of that item that they can invest in, right? I don't know of anyone who's laying on the couch somewhere with an illness or an injury that wants to just be laying there, moping in the pain. Why try to keep them there under the guise of helping them if instead we can come alongside collectively to find something to add value and perspective and difference from laying there.
Right, exactly. And, she had the attitude of, someone once asked her, why don't you just give up? Why do you keep pushing? You're pushing yourself, they actually said, why don't you just, say, God, just come take me.
So why don't you just die?
She said,
is what they're saying.
Yeah.
She said, she said, well, actually, I'm in so much pain that I do ask God every night, please take me.
Wow.
But she said, I am not going to die before he comes and takes me. She said, as long as I'm here, I'm going to live as best as I can.
There's the soundbite.
Well, that's just really powerful. I mean,
I will not die before I die.
Exactly.
I will not choose to die.
Yeah.
I want to die. I'm suffering, but I've refused to choose to.
Right.
And she had seen several people in her life that that had basically given up, and she said, I won't do that. So yeah, it is a choice. I mean, we see that a lot when people just giving up and choosing, choosing drugs, choosing alcohol, choosing,
depression,
choosing to walk away from a marriage, walking away from whatever, but it's also a choice to stick it out and find the best you can with whatever situation you're in.
Yes.
So, and she was quite a fighter because, so you walked through this with her for 20 years,
right?
And she's since deceased, correct?
Correct.
She's passed. And what were the projections? Because it sounded like 20 years is significantly longer than what you both were anticipating. What was the survivability rate that the doctors are saying up front?
So when she had leukemia, the survivability of at that point was she had a 30% chance to live through the 3-year treatment, and then she had a 10% chance to live 10 years beyond that, which again would have, and when we met, she was like, I'm right at that 10-year mark where they said, I've only got a 10% chance of getting to this point. And that's why they'd said, don't expect to live even 10 years beyond that. Which would put her at about 30. And then about the time that she started to get sick, when she, the type of illness she had, you're usually, it progresses in 10 years is about the most you have. I mean, you all know of like ALS and things like that. It's a very similar type of progression usually. It's usually, once you start having, those muscle weaknesses and it's progressive, it's 5-10 years max. And, and she actually lived 15 years beyond that 10-year point. So she was struggling with this for almost close to 25 years. So, but yeah, so we always joked about how she lived 15 years beyond her expiration date.
Well, and that just demonstrates the warrior in her, right?
Yes.
That I'm not going to quit, even though I want to have this stop. I refuse to quit, and it also demonstrates the warrior in you to walk through that with her, right?
Yeah,
There's a steadfastness that, because like walking through this, and when you shared the point where she's like, I actually do want to die. Like, I actually do want to die.
Right.
I actually do ask every night, hey, it would be great if I don't wake up. But I'm going to wake up. Right. Unless I'm dead. Like, this isn't a choice. It's a request, but I'm going.
Right.
And I'm going to build this business. I'm going to live the best life I can with you. And I'm going to do these things. And that was immensely powerful.
Yes.
And I think people are starving for that. I'm starving for that. And I'm doing the best I can to foster that in my own home.
Right.
Because everywhere we look, right, there is hurt and loss and loneliness. And each one of us can do a little bit by not perpetuating that, by, saying, okay, let's not quit. Let's keep driving on. But that was just so powerful. I thought it was really awesome. It really puts into context things you may be disagreeing with your spouse on or a friend. Like, I'm having this argument with my buddy or with my wife or what have you, my husband, whatever the case may be. And it's like, I just listened to this and all of a sudden I just want to go hug him, say thank you, and not be so bloody ungrateful. Right? And
my wife's not as bad because I didn't compliment her hair today. So she's always doing that. It's totally a different situation there. Yeah.
So she survived 15 years past the expiration date, which is hilarious. Great way to bring some humor into it, right? So how long ago then did this part of the journey end for you?
So she passed away about 4.5 years ago.
Okay. And how's the walk? How's it been since then?
It's it's very interesting making a complete turn from full-time caregiver to no longer having having that to do. So, but it's also we had gone through losses so many times that I'd really studied how to grieve, how to deal with stress and things like that. So I knew I knew the things that I needed to do and the things that I needed not to do. Things like, when you're in that grief, a lot of times you don't want to get out and be with people. You just want to sit there. And I knew that would just be a spiral if I did that. So I immediately went out and got involved got involved in my church, got involved in some community groups, but also learning to, another big thing with that helps with stress recovery and grief recovery is trying new things. So there's a lot of things that, I couldn't do because I was having to stay home and take care of her. And so I was actually able to go out and try some different things. I took up line dancing. I started doing karaoke. I was, gave me, I took up karaoke just so that because I knew that I would have to share my story and would have to be willing to get up in front of people and talk. So I decided, well, karaoke is something that I can do something different, but also give me a chance to work through the fear of making a fool of myself in front of people.
What a great remedy!
Well,
I love it.
It's interesting because it's like if your resolution hasn't been shown through this entire conversation, your indomitable spirit just sung out when you literally looked off the precipice into, I know if I just stay home, it'll be the end of me. Right. And I can spiral into despair from the final loss in this long, arduous, painful journey. But I refuse to do that.
Right.
I choose to continue to live and to now live the best that I can so that, one, for myself, but two, probably to honor your wife.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was a big part of it was to honor her because, we had those discussions of, she's like, I don't want you to, when I'm gone, I don't want you feeling sorry for yourself, and I want you to get out and do these things that you haven't been able to do, and she'd known some people that were like, well, when I die, I don't want my, spouse,
even looking at another woman,
right,
or something, right?
And we're like,
yeah.
And he's like, really? Come on, don't you want the best for them? No, I want them to really to miss me. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah, just grieve for the rest of your life. That's the goal.
It's like, yeah, I mean, she told me, I don't want you doing that. I want you to go out and live life, and that was her motto, was live life. So of course I'm going to so that was something I could do to really honor her, was to live life the best that I can afterwards.
So here you are living life. I mean, now the sun's up. It's 7 a.m. We're recording a podcast. This is new to you, right? You're sharing your story again,
right?
Which I imagine some of the courage for that's been built from your wild karaoke adventures and stuff. And we met a few years ago and then haven't been in touch at all, frankly. Mm-hmm. It was just enough that I recognized your name when Aaron mentioned you. I was like, oh, Chet, I think I know him. And now you're going on some adventure. So you're continuing to live and you're continuing to grow in that. And I do see more light and life in you now, and it makes sense because I wasn't aware of your circumstances. But when we met, it was fairly recent, still after losing her. So you're probably climbing out of the hole. My question, if you feel comfortable with putting any thought into it, is looking back over the last 25, 30 years, right, from flash to bang. I guess it's kind of, I'll word it the best I can. Maybe it's kind of 3 parts. Is there anything you do differently? Is there anything you wish you could tell yourself at the start of the journey, which I guess is a different way of saying the same thing? or how would you encourage someone right now who's walking through their own difficulties right now?
There's always things that I would do differently. It's not worrying so much about the financial, especially the financial stuff. We held on to a lot of things that for a lot longer than we should have, if we have really been honest with ourselves, and put a lot of stress on ourselves because of that. But if eventually we had to take stock and say, this really isn't that important. We can't let it go. Unfortunately, it happens a lot more than we would have liked. But we just kept holding on way too long. We hold on to something for years when we should have been able to let it go sooner.
And these are items,
items, and just usually just items
like lifestyle-based items,
right? Yeah. So that's the big thing. It's just don't worry about those things so much. What would I tell someone who's going through it? We so much want to tell people it's going to be okay. We want to, I think, Hallmark and, movies have really, and tried to get us to think that we can just, if we just come up with this one nugget, the world's going to be so much better, and so we're always looking for someone, or some way of telling someone, okay, it's going to be better in 15 minutes, Yeah. and I give you this one word that's just going to make it all better, and but it doesn't, and it never does, and usually when we say those types of things, they are just the absolute wrong thing to say. Do make it worse. But the honest truth is, life is hard, and it's going to be hard. And, we just have to do the best we can with what we have. And, and so, and like I said, do not go it alone. That's the biggest thing is just, we are all in this together. We should be all in this together. And, if you're just starting out in this type of a journey, really take stock in what you're, and be honest with where things are going to go. Because, we can hope for the best, but we really do need to prepare for the worst. And then be honest with what you can and cannot do. And, and then be willing to accept help, and ask for help.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're listening to this and you didn't realize that the last 5 minutes has basically been a condensed, rapid-fire succession of wisdom and things you want to remember.
Just repeat all that. Just go back a minute.
Skip back a couple of minutes to listen. And if I may, and I'm also secretly hoping this maybe sparks another nugget of wisdom from you, right? Because those are all really good. I'd love to summarize really quickly what I heard. So in the order you shared them, right? So it was an encouragement to your younger self in a sense of focus on what really matters sooner and be willing to let go of what doesn't or distracts.
Right.
And the sooner you're able to do that, the less costly it is, the less stress it involves, the less diminishing focus you have. You're able to be more focused, right? So encouragement to take stock of the situation, say, does this really matter? No. And a really quick, very superficial example is yesterday was very chaotic on my end, very superficial stuff, but I cut out social media for the day. Like I didn't use it. I use social media as a tool for a number of projects I'm working on. I just didn't touch it all day long. I was like, too much is going on. This is a high level thing. Don't care, right? So that's a really light example of what you're talking about on a much deeper, heavier context. But I thought it may tie some grounding in for people who this is just so much further than anything they've experienced.
There's often things that like little teeny weights we have in our life.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enough of them that they're really adding unneeded weight to an already difficult situation.
It's like a piece of straw is not heavy, but a bale is quite a bit heavier, right? So you have all the straw. Anyways, so that was the first one. And then from there, the best my memory can do is be honest with yourself. You're not crazy for life being hard because it is, right? It's not supposed to be sunshine and rainbows. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. You're not insane for thinking, am I the only one who doesn't see sunshine and rainbows?
You're not a target.
Yeah.
And you're one of many it's happening to.
And I just remember what I thought was really cool about that is the second you realize and accept life is hard, it frees you to start doing the best you can with it and to start living.
Right.
Preparing, as you said. And I love that you even prepared for what was inevitable. Like you knew your wife was going to pass.
Right.
And oftentimes we just don't want to think about it. Like this is difficult to think about. Like I love her. I don't want to think about that kind of stuff. But yours was more like, I want to honor her. Once this does happen, which inevitably will, would she want me to be miserable, or would she want me to be prepared for this? As prepared as you can. Grief is a funny thing. But once you go through that appropriate time, then how are you going to start living again?
Right.
But thinking about that when the grief is happening is really not very helpful.
Right.
But prior to, in creating that plan, you could be in a lot better situation.
Right.
Knowing the difficulties coming.
Right. Yeah, having that plan is, and that's why it's important to prepare. Because you're not going to think straight when you're in the middle of that grief. No. You're not going to come up with those solutions that you need to be prepared for.
Well, and that's why, again, the friend thing too. We always harp on this, or going it alone, as you said. Right. Don't go alone because your brain will get funny sometimes.
Right.
And I'm not grieving like you are as a friend, and I can be like, give you a little perspective, not platitudinal nuggets and like, let me just bandage you up really fast and pretend you're not bleeding, but realize, hey, I know you're going to curse the sky. I'm going to let you right now. Like, see what you got to do, kick, be mad, but I'm here to make sure you have boundaries. Make sure you don't hurt yourself while you're doing that.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly true. I mean, we hate to see someone hurting, and so we tend to not want to watch someone, and so our typical response is, someone's throwing a fit, throwing a tantrum. It's usually to try to calm them down, but you do have to let some of those emotions out.
That's good.
Sometimes, and you have
being
to let
comfortable.
someone.
And being comfortable with them.
Right.
Like I'm uncomfortable that you're uncomfortable, but all right, I'll be here with you. Right. I'll kind of borrow that. I'll live the difficulty with you because that's what's got to happen. I'm not going to try to bandage you so I can feel better.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it. Last night I learned that someone I'm really close to, really dear friend of mine, one of the most important people in his life died. And I learned it last night. So I've been thinking through what's the way I can support my friend here because he's in another state. I can't go see him. And, I asked the, hey, what can I do for you question, but it's like, it's not enough for me to be satisfied to know that he knows he's not alone in this to whatever capacity. So I'm probably just going to call him and be like, hey man, I'm here. There's not much I can do from here, but I am here. let's go from there and just listen to him for a bit if he cares to talk, not allow him to be alone and say, oh, he probably wants a space right now. No, screw that. I'm going to go be with him for a bit, and I'm going to push into the discomfort to sit in it with my buddy, right? And that, thinking about that in context to what we just were talking about, instead of summarizing all the points you made, I think I found the central theme. When you find the things that are uncomfortable and ugly and painful, push into them, not away from them. Don't run from them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And if you push through them enough, you'll be able to start creating solutions to them.
Yes.
Right.
Which, really funny, just side note on that, that's how you react to a near ambush. You push through the engagement as quickly as possible. So it's just, what's true in combat's true in life. Don't run from your problems. Push through them.
Right.
And obviously take it in the context of the fun we're having right now. But yes.
Have we given the buffalo example on our podcast that you and I talked about? I just love it. It's a beautiful picture. So how buffaloes get to the storm.
Yeah, bison, right?
Bison.
American bison.
That's the same thing. It's the same word, right? Buffalo bison. He just rolled his eyes at me.
It's the National Bison Association.
Bison.
Okay.
Yeah. John wants to have a bison ranch. Like he's totally just
snooty,
out hipping me right now. Thank you. Go ahead.
I know nothing about this aside from a desire, but the really cool thing about bison, the American buffalo, whatever.
And you told me this. I think it's awesome.
It is cool, and I learned this studying the animal because someday it'd be cool to open a ranch with them, right? Dream big, but when a huge blizzard comes, the way they survive it is they face their body into the strongest wind, and they begin walking into the storm.
As a herd, going through.
As a herd, because they know that if they face it and they walk into it, they'll be through it faster.
Right.
If they run away from it, they'll be stuck in it longer. So they just start pushing into the storm so they can get past it. And that's a cool metaphor.
What we often do is we run away from the storm,
but then
it just follows us the whole way. It's a much longer process.
Yep.
In listening to your story, Chet, there wasn't a single moment where you said, yeah, I was doing this or trying to be by myself or being alone, and the problem solved itself. It was, I had to stop and address it, and then we started to find resolution. We started to find relief.
Yep.
Yep.
And cool. Like I said, if there's things that if we'd have done that sooner, it would have saved us a lot of pain.
Yes.
So we just kept trying to push away from the storm from sometimes, and it, like you said, it just kept coming and coming.
So I'm really excited because this is the first time while we're having the discussion, I think we'll know what title we'll have to go with this conversation. And I think it's Push Into the Storm with Chet Bailey.
Right? I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
That's fun.
I really appreciate your story. And as a side note, hearing through this friendship that we have, or even just sitting and having this story, like this affects us. Like this gives me pause, and I really think about my own situation. I know John is too. Like we're kind of, okay, what can I do for my friends, my wife, my workplace?
Right.
When I see these things happen, and I'm inspired by your story. I'm giving myself less outs during this story. All of a sudden, you're just like, just think about Chet. Come on. But also, I want to, as a side note, encourage people. Like these stories are all around us.
Right.
We have got to stop and sit down. And I would not know this about you. It's not like written on your face or anything. And you're not even real vocal about it because that's the humility you've learned over these years. But if I sitting down, knowing you for long enough, we get these incredible stories. We could be in each other's lives and really help each other learn more, and then also be helpers through someone who is maybe still in the story. So let's not close our eyes to that as we walk through this life.
Right.
And Chet, I just want to thank you before I give it to you for closing remarks, because this conversation definitively encouraged me to be a better man and human. I know that because of the reflections on your example and what we've talked about today, I'll work to be a better father, a better husband, a better friend. And that is what this is all about. So thank you for being willing to share with us.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me here. And I really, am glad that, I can I can share this to help someone else through some difficulties. And I mean, as tough as my situation may sound, and your situation is your situation. You're going through difficult things in your own life, and it's easy to sit there and think, oh well, now hearing his story, I have no reason to even feel so bad about what I'm going through, but it's still your situation, and you haven't gone through the same things that I've gone through, and it's still a so don't so don't try to measure against someone else's story. But we all have things we're going through, no matter what. If you're alive, you're going through something.
That was another episode of The Grit Theory. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and let us know. If you did not like what you heard, keep it to yourself.
We hope that you got at least a few nuggets that you want to share. We look forward to seeing your comments below. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Take care.